So ethics is a very powerful decision-making tool. You can use it either for risk mitigation, where you're looking at how do I prevent bad things from happening? How do I prevent my company or my technology from making headlines in a very negative, scandalous way? That's one side of ethics. The other side of ethics is actually very positive. It's more strategic. It's looking at how do I innovate? How can I be creative in designing for my values? How do I make my company make headlines for good things, for good applications of tech?
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Engatica interview series. I'm your host Sahil, and we are really glad to have you join us today. Today on our show, we have Olivia Gambelin, founder of Ethical Intelligence and an AI Ethicist. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Sahil.
Engatica interview series is a powerhouse of insights from industry experts and influencers from around the world. A platform that provides latest news on AI, automation, and technologies that will help you grow your business. Come be a part of our community, learn, share, and grow with us. So, Olivia, my first question to you would be why the ethics of AI are complicated?
So AI ethics is incredibly complicated because think of it as like bringing together multiple fields into one problem-solving situation. So these are not simple problems. They're very complex problems. They require complex solutions. And oftentimes when you are speaking to people that work in this field, we are versed in multiple different fields. So I am an ethicist by training. I have the background of an ethicist, but I also have to be aware of different economical stressors that a company is going under. I have to know and be aware of different new data management processes or model architectures. I need to know these things. And so with these problems around ethical AI, you really do need either multiple perspectives for multiple people or someone that has really a wide range of knowledge to be able to solve them. So it's not a simple solution, simple fix. There's often multiple steps within one solution, and you do need multiple perspectives to help with that. So that's probably a short answer on why it's so complex.
AI is complex, so like ethics around it would be even more complex. Sure. Can you give us some ethical issues and examples of some ethical issues in AI, as well as examples of ethical dilemmas?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I do, especially when working with clients, is try and break it down, because when you're facing ethical dilemmas around artificial intelligence, some of those dilemmas are actually coming out of the business model and the company itself rather than the technology. So what we need to look at is actually first and foremost the people. So who is building the AI? You're looking at what kind of training they've been through, what kind of background they come from. Are they speaking the same language? So if you have a team of data scientists building a model, do they all understand and conceptualize fairness in the same way, or are they applying different understandings of fairness? You'll get situations like that where half the team's applying fairness understood as equal opportunity, and then the other half is applying it as equal outcome. And just that small difference in the conceptualization of fairness can result in problems in the technology itself. So that first layer, you're always asking yourself, who's building this? Is it a good culture? Do they approach it with curiosity? Do they approach it with the skill set and training that they need? And then above that, you have process, which can be boring on some levels to some people, but really fascinating to other people on other levels. But that's really looking at the frameworks. What is the process that we go through in developing? So a lot of teams will use Agile in terms of sprints in developing our technology. You can actually complement Agile with something called an ethics cycle, which brings in the ethical questions along the lines of those sprints. But yeah, process is really focused on how are you building your technology, who's building it, but then the question is how are you building it? And then that final layer is actually the technology itself. That's really when you get into the details of the AI. And when you're looking at the details of the AI, you're looking at what kind of impact is the use of this technology going to bring? You can be looking at specifics like what kind of biases is in the data sets that we're using to train the model on, what kind of safeguards need to be put into place. It becomes, again, quite complex. It starts to really open up from there. But those are examples of where you see ethical challenges in artificial intelligence and the development of it. But yeah, I can give you, I guess I can give you a dilemma or two if you'd like on top of it.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a good one, but yeah, you can share one more. That would be great.
Yeah. So let's see. I should actually have better ones come to mind as I go to offer them. So one dilemma that we've actually been working with a client on. So this client provides a software to hospitals that help hospitals diagnose patients in the ER. It's supposed to be a supportive tool for nurses so that when a patient is coming in, the nurse has the ability to check for, say, sepsis or something, an emergency diagnosis that could be missed in the chaos that is the emergency room. With that technology, though, there is the dilemma of how much is that a decision-making tool versus a recommendation tool. So in the cases of hospital, you don't want the instance where the nurse is solely relying on that piece of software to make the decisions, because of course the software can't see the patient. So the nurse could be picking something up that the software is not picking up. And if the nurse is only relying on the software for a decision, then there are a lot of instances where a patient can be misdiagnosed. When it's really just supposed to be a tool, a recommendation of, hey, take another look. So there is that dilemma of how is this information presented to the nurse that is using it in a way that it helps the nurse make an informed decision, but doesn't overly influence that nurse's decision so that the patient, at the expense of the patient.
Yeah, that's a very good example. We wouldn't want to stop progress around these areas, but we have to be very, very careful on them as well.
Yeah.
Sure. So coming to my next question, which is sort of related. So many consumers today don't trust artificial intelligence, especially in one of the examples that we just discussed. They prefer the authenticity and empathy of human interactions. Is there any way to combine the two?
Absolutely. And I think that's something that I'm a huge advocate for as well, of utilizing artificial intelligence as more augmented intelligence. It's a tool that helps us. I've been working with a client for a while that has a great perspective on this, where they design chatbots. So the chatbots are usually, you go onto a website and you've got a little chatbot, and that's your customer help service. The company that we've been working with, though, they have this in mind of that chatbot is used to connect you with the person as fast as possible. So the end goal of the chatbot is not to completely answer all your questions. They recognize that that different people and different users are going to come and use that chatbot that have different slang, that have different ways of phrasing a problem. But really, that chatbot's being designed using NLP processing to figure out who does this person need to talk to, what person in the customer service department does this person need to talk to, and connect them as fast as possible so they have that human empathetic side, but they're not stuck in hours upon hours of phoning in and having to dial different numbers and getting nowhere at the end of the day.
Loops. We're all been there in the loops of customer
Exactly.
service. So yeah, that's a good one. Sure. My next question would be, how can startup companies assess their ethics maturity and importance of technology development in the same areas?
Yeah. So I've actually worked on developing something called the ethics maturity continuum. You can find this through eaigg.org. EAIGG, it's Ethical AI Governance Group coming out of California. And it is a group bringing together investors and startups in the responsible tech space. I'm one of the board members, and we've developed a continuum framework. It's 5 questions long, and it's a way for you to assess your maturity as a startup. Each of those 5 questions are looking at a different principle, a different ethical principle that you utilize when developing your AI company. So as an AI startup, for example, one of the principles is responsibility. And so the question is asking, do you have anyone accountable? Do you have someone assigned in the company for AI governance? Another example is social impact. And that's looking at, does your company have a mission statement and values? And how are you assessing for those values in your actual technology? So it's a simple, really simple 5 question, well, technically 6 questions. The 6th question is if you're early or late stage startup, but 5 questions on these principles. And that is a great way to help initially assess as a startup. That continuum was designed because a lot of the frameworks and resources in AI ethics, the majority of them have been designed for large companies, which doesn't really work for a startup. So this continuum was reverse engineered from those bigger, large enterprise frameworks down to something that fits a startup.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm going to ask my product managers to look at it as well. Because Engati, as you know, also deals with AI as well as chatbots. So we might fit into that role as well.
Yeah.
Sure. Are there any sound bites you would like to share with our audiences?
Oof.
Anything you want to highlight, or anything?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I guess a good soundbite would be around ethics itself. So ethics is a very powerful decision-making tool. You can use it either for risk mitigation, where you're looking at how do I prevent bad things from happening? How do I prevent my company or my technology from making headlines in a very negative, scandalous way? That's one side of ethics. The other side of ethics is actually very positive. It's more strategic. It's looking at how do I innovate? How can I be creative in designing for my values? How do I make my company make headlines for good things, for good applications of tech?
Sure. The best companies to work for, as well as the ones whose customers are the happiest, are the people who really care about the technology and really care about what they're making. So
Exactly.
This is just one of the tools in their tool belt to get the right job done. That's really great. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us. Thank you. For more content, please subscribe to Engatica and tap the bell icon to get exclusive content from thought leaders from around the globe. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you around with a new expert soon.